Okay, let's just say I didn't make any plans to go cruising or posing in the Micra, all right? I mean, image-wise, for me, the Micra generally rests somewhere between tartan slippers and sweaters with animals on them. Personally, I've never really had the slightest interest in how well they actually go or stop, and that's for two simple reasons. Number one, I wouldn't be found dead in one, and number two, they're only ever driven by old people with straw hats and golf umbrellas velcroed onto the parcel shelf. But this one, I think, really is cute. It's the nose, it's sort of wrinkled. The nostrils, they're kind of a bit flary, really. It's cute, but not in a stuffed koala or some cloying, bug-eyed cartoon character kind of way. It's more like the cuteness of a puppy when it growls at you. It's got just a little bit of attitude. Nissan's designers have taken the previous Bambi look of the last Micra, and they've armed it with a pop gun and a snarl. Now that, to me, really is cute. External changes are actually quite minimal. There's a completely new bonnet and a new grille at the front. The side strips with this broken line are new, not entirely sure about those. At each of the four corners there's one of these strips which do serve to visually widen the car, and there's new rear tail lamps as well. But for our little fun-sized cutester, it's under its little skinny winny where most of the changes have taken place. And straight away, this feels like a proper car in here. The dashboard is proper. There's no silly instrument pod sat up on top. It's all smoothly integrated. There's nothing tinny or tacky about it. It's really quite grown up as the interior of a car. The seats are comfortable. They're a bit firm, but not uncomfortable. There's only one problem, and that's with the driving position. There's no adjustment at all on the height of the driver's seat. And the adjustment of the steering wheel is very minimal and just for height, which means the very, very small people are going to have a bit of trouble getting very comfortable in here, which is quite ironic, really, in what is, after all, a very small car. The version before this version of the Micra, if you remember the sort of squared-off biscuit tin one, was so ghastly that subsequent generations of the car must have wondered how they could ever overcome the dreadfulness of their forebears. In fact, a couple of years or so ago, the newly redesigned Micra must have tripped merrily into the limelight, all cutesy curves and cheeky looks, only to discover that most of us were still reeling from the shock of their ancestors' tatty, shabby, tinny nastiness. And anyway, I didn't actually like the last car in its own right, even without its embarrassing family history. For me, it was just too cute, too cuddly, too noddy. For what is, after all, very much a city car, once you're out on the open road, it behaves itself reasonably well. The steering's actually quite sharp, but the brakes are a bit numb. They do let it down, and I must say that through the bends there is quite a lot of body roll. That's only if you push it, and I suppose who's ever going to be too cruel to such a little cutie? It wouldn't be right. It also can start to feel a little bit cramped in the cabin, particularly when you think about what it's up against, the likes of Renault's Clio and a Volkswagen's Polo. And after a while, particularly in town, you do start to feel a little bit perched, a little bit on display. It all becomes, well, frankly, rather worryingly noddy land. Nissan say that they've simplified the usual complicated system of trim levels and options, and they've done this by offering 3 levels. So there's Equation, GX and SI. Everybody gets driver's airbag, body-coloured bumpers, tinted glass and a rear wipe. Then features such as electric windows, a rear spoiler, remote control central locking become available later on as options on the GX and SI versions. So having chosen your trim level, you then choose your option from 7 option packs, such as the City Pack, which gives power-assisted steering and central locking to the entry-level Equation for £645. Or you might choose, for instance, the Audio Pack, that features a 10-disc CD auto changer for £350, and so on. Where the Safety Pack, there's Air Conditioning Pack, Sports Pack and a Comfort Pack. Though I haven't yet found the Hooligan Pack, which would include V8 engine and luminous paint. Shame, really. But then it gets complicated again, because the SI is only available as a 3-door. But you can get a GX and upgrade it with the Sports Pack, and that includes the SI trim. So that would be the SI alloy wheels, the rev counter, and basically you kind of build your own SI. So what's happened is, basically you've ended up with a complicated system of trim levels and options, really. Just as a final point of interest, the NCVT, or Nissan Continuously Variable Transmission, is, if you like, a modern interpretation of the old Variamatic system. The ones with a series of funny cones and rubber bands that used to make your car feel a bit like driving a vacuum cleaner. Well, the good news is the modern system works well. It's a stepless transmission. It puts the power down very effectively. But there is one downside, and that is that if you floor it to move away from a standstill, the revs immediately rise to a peak. The rest of the car catches up with it in time, and it makes a noise not at all dissimilar to the tortuous clutch-burning starts favoured by the old people with the straw hats on the parcel shelf and the umbrella who used to buy the previous version of the Micra. funny that, really, when you think about it.